But moving on a little bit now, let's actually get into that season 4 True Detective Night Country critique that I've got. Um, Obviously, this past Sunday was the season finale, so I felt like I wanted to try to get this video up as close as possible to when that actual season finale actually was. And that obviously I'm going to rip it right away that this critique is going to have spoilers in it and everything. So if you're not into spoilers and want to go kind of spoiler free with the season, then probably don't watch the rest of this video or skip to another video on my channel or anything else. But if you've already seen it or don't mind it kind of being spoiled for you, then obviously keep listening and hear kind of my overall kind of thoughts of what this kind of, how this last kind of season was for it. And to start it out, I actually kind of, before the season, because I knew the season was coming out like mid-January time frame, and because of that, I wanted to kind of catch up on the previous seasons because I knew I wanted to do a True Detective like critique, and I wanted to kind of make it like a kind of wanted to compare this season to the previous seasons. So I kind of went back and watched the prior 3 seasons before I get into this 4th season itself, just to kind of get a kind of base of kind of some remembrance of past seasons, see if there's any hints or anything mentioned in this latest season that was referenced back into like the first season or something like that, and just kind of do like a kind of slight ranking of how I have like all 4 seasons of True Detective so far. For season 4 in general, I'm just gonna kind of stick to this kind of critique, just looking at season 4. Obviously, at the end I'll do a slight like ranking in terms of how I rank it towards the other seasons. And the biggest kind of difference to this season versus previous season is that Nick Pizzolatto was not the writer of this 4th season and did not come up with the True Detective Night Country. That was by Isaac Lopez, and that was like the biggest kind of change in terms of this season versus past seasons and everything. That was like the kind of biggest thing, and the first thing you kind of realize in this kind of 4th season is that it's significantly more, or feels significantly more suspenseful, almost supernatural at times. So it's definitely one of those kind of keeping to some traditions of True Detective, but kind of went on its own kind of path with this season as well. So how I usually start these kind of off and kind of give you overall kind of was it good or not kind of thing, just give you like a short synopsis of what happened in this 4th season. It's Night Country, it's because it's in Alaska and a long dark kind of winter, and during that time frame these 8 researchers go missing off of like the first episode and everything, and they're trying to figure out, as in Danvers and Navarro are or more so Danvers at this point. Navarro is still kind of not knowing of this part of it, but is still looking back at a previous case that the 2 of them had worked on before, and the case of Annie dying or being killed. And kind of that's kind of one biggest difference, is that compared to past seasons is that there's this previous case that the 2 of them had, and during that case something clearly happens, and they feel like, at least Navarro feels like the killer is still out there, and that case isn't solved yet and everything. So because of that, it kind of has that similar feel to like previous seasons where either like season 3 or season 1, where it takes place different time periods, where in season 1 they didn't catch everyone right away. In season 3 it was kind of wrongly kind of convicted, and easy kind of get twice before to get into this kind of time frame. So there was 3 time periods in terms of season 3, but this one they didn't do what they did in previous seasons, where they went back to like the past and showed like how that case went or anything. They weren't being interviewed or anything, that they were kind of sharing it. So, and that's how it was kind of written differently, in that they were kind of at times, whether it was talking to Pryor about their previous case or whatever, everything just kind of went on that front in terms of kind of piecing together what happened in the past. And one overarching kind of theme to this season was kind of something from your past kind of haunting you and coming back. And they did a great job in that front, kind of with Danvers and Navarro, kind of giving them this almost tragic backstory that each week you kind of unveil a little bit more of kind of what happened and everything. And it isn't until this last episode of the season, if I can speak, how all of it kind of went down and everything. But anyways, back to the story itself. It went, at least 7 or 8 researchers go kind of missing out from this research lab out in Alaska. It's in the pitch black darkness at this point. And by the end of the first episode, you find out that they had all died in the ice and snow and are all frozen over. So after the first episode, that's where you get there. And then you realize that all but I think one of them are actually dead, and then there's another one who's missing out of the 8. And they're kind of tracking down of who this person is and what happened to these researchers that got them out, stripped down, naked essentially. Not essentially, they were naked, but stripped down in the ice, just how that happened and where this one researcher from this lab went. And then this is the part where Navarro kind of comes in a little more and saying this Pryor that they worked on isn't done yet, and there's a link. There's some kind of link to these researchers going missing and then ending up dying and everything. So the thought process there is to just at that point to work together, because they realize that can kind of help. And this is, as the season kind of goes on, you see there's a little bit more political, cops and everything, corruption kind of comes up, which is kind of what at each 3 seasons prior kind of had their own kind of form of this as well. So that's another thing that kind of went back to the other previous seasons of it. And that's where you kind of see where some holes were made in the previous case, like the fact that Annie's body was actually where she died. It wasn't actually where they found her body was not actually where the killing took place. And because of that, everything just keeps going back to political corruptness and everything. And by the end, you find out that this researcher who's missing is Ray Clark, and he was actually the boyfriend to Annie, who had died. So they found out that later on, and this is where the spoiler kind of comes in, that he and the other researchers actually ended up murdering Annie, because they found this secret lab. And in that secret lab, another big factor was the native people and everything, their land in this small town in Alaska were essentially being polluted, and the water was getting polluted, and they knew it was getting polluted, and they knew this company drilling in oil was the reason why it was polluting. So the whole time during the season, you see them kind of going back and forth with the public and everything, just trying to, with the protests of the native people, to the police having to kind of shut down riots and everything. And this is where you find out what they found at the lab was that deep into the crust they found some mineral of some sort that could help with like diseases and everything. So, but to help with that, to help kind of help the land a little bit easier to get to, they actually let them pollute even more oil and everything into the water, so it makes it a little easier for them to kind of to kind of get to this thing in the ground. But that's where Annie comes in, because she found this secret lab and everything, and found out all this kind of shady stuff that was going on, that they purposely knew what was going on. That's when all 7 or all 8 of them really ended up killing Annie. And what the big reveal is that what happened to the researchers is the cleaning crew essentially came in, and they were the reason. Them and a bunch of like natives women came in and kind of took revenge for Annie's death, to exploit what was going on and everything, and to kind of revenge for purposely and knowingly polluting their water and having so many people either sick or die because of it. So a lot of the other aspects of it kind of comes hand in hand with that, and because of that, you see that's where the kind of supernatural kind of aspect of the season kind of comes in, and the fact that nobody in this town, nobody actually dies. So the thought there is that Annie, even though she did die, she actually came back with revenge. That's when Ray Clark kind of freaks out a bit when they break into the lab, because he thinks it's Annie coming back to get revenge of them killing her and everything, but it wasn't actually her. It was the cleaning people, the cleaning women and everything from the lab, plus these natives women and everything. And essentially what it came down to was Annie was kind of manifesting herself here and there as a way to kind of, obviously to seek revenge, but to fix the damage or fix the corruption and everything wrong going on with the system kind of thing. And that's kind of why these women and everything kind of went down this way in terms of going after these men in the lab and everything. And they thought that this could be a way to kind of get them to stop. But this is also where you kind of see some of the political corruptness and everything, corrupt cops and everything, like Hank Pryor being kind of a corrupt cop. He ended up moving Annie's body to that location where they found her, and doing that, the promise there was that they were actually going to make him chief instead of Navarro, but that didn't end up happening. So by the end, when they're getting closer and closer to kind of the truth, and that's when when they go back to Hank Pryor and saying, hey, you need to take out Otis Heiss because he's going to take Navarro and Danvers to this site where they can get in, and we don't want them to find it. So we needed to do this one more solid thing. We needed to kill Pryor and to kill Heiss. And what ends up happening in the episode prior to the finale, obviously, is that there's a standoff between Hank Pryor, his son, and with Danvers, and obviously Heiss is there as well, and that he wanted to take him and essentially kill him, which he ends up actually being successful in killing him. But what actually happens after that is that because of the standoff, he's about to threaten to kill Navarro, which then has the younger Pryor kill Hank at that time. And that's kind of what happens on that end in terms of it. But what he says prior to that is that he didn't actually kill Annie, he just moved the body. So they all at this point know that he's kind of become this corrupt cop and everything. And the reason why going back to why these women kind of never went to the public or anything, or went to the police about everything, is because, again, the system and everything made them almost not willing to go to that route because of everything in the past, and it was just going to be something that was just going to be blown over and nobody's going to want to kind of talk about or whatever. So that just kind of leaves you, it's pretty much the main kind of points in this this series of this season for the whole kind of story arc. Didn't go too deep in terms of subplots of the story or whatever, but that was just kind of the main points. But if I have to give this season a actual rating, like a Rotten Tomatoes kind of score of out of 100, I'd probably give it like an 84. So some of the specifics that I liked about it was I liked the kind of overall aesthetic of the night country, it being dark out. It definitely played into the role of it helped with the suspensefulness. It helped with the more supernatural aspect of this season as well. It did a great job as a backdrop and everything. I liked kind of the story arcs. Definitely liked their kind of backstories. Wish it would have been dove into a little bit more than it was. But overall, I was still good. But in terms of like, I liked it, but it wasn't. I don't think it was as good as season 1 or season 3. Some of the other things I wish they would have done more of was dive into some sub characters, like with Hank or Peter Pryor's like backstories. I would have liked them to get a little bit more like Hank's love kind of life, which was like a sub, almost like who cares almost kind of thing at the end of the day, where it seemed like he was getting like almost catfished and everything. So that was one thing I wish they would have kind of done more on. They try to show a bit more of I would have seen more of that father and son kind of relationship. I would have seen that as well, and how obviously Navarro and her stepdaughter kind of were. I wanted to see if they kind of reconcile, if there's like more to that story. I wanted to see more of that. So there were some things that I thought could have been better in terms of some story development, in terms of backstory. I also felt like Peter's relationship fell apart a little too quickly or too easily. I just felt like that was kind of a little iffy there. But the other bigger issue I had with this season is that I felt like there were moments during each episode where like nothing like major was really like happening. Like there would be like the main thing that would happen, a big thing that games that want you to watch the next episode would happen at the end, and then there would be nothing real that happens during that episode. Then at the end, the same thing. Then like just kind of kept going to it. It's not my kind of preferred kind of writing style in terms of what I like in terms of shows or movies and everything, but that was just something I wasn't the biggest a fan of. But again, I give this whole kind of season an 84. I do think it is better than season 2 though, so I will say on that front. And because of that, I also feel like the ending a bit was a little rushed as well. Like you're building up to, it feels like everything's just building up. You're trying to get these stories, but at the end you just kind of, oh, this is what happened and this is how we just kind of found out and everything. So I wish it would have been a little bit more, but this was also a season that was shorter than the previous 3 seasons. This was only 6 episodes versus the 8 episodes of the previous 3 seasons. But yeah, that's kind of it in terms of this kind of critique. I didn't want to go too far into kind of giving every kind of spoiler that kind of happened. Kind of gave you the major kind of points of what happened in the series. And I said at the beginning of this, I wanted to give kind of a kind of rating of how I view all 4 seasons at this point. And I'm going to go from what I think is the best to the worst in terms of season ranking. So I think season 1 is still the best. I think it's not really even close. I give that one a 92% if I have to give an actual rating score. Then I have season 3, where I probably have that at like an 88. I just kind of like those seasons more. I think those ones, this character developments, the stories of those seem a little more simpler. Whereas like this season 4 I put at 3, and then season 2 I put it at 4 at 75%. I think this season and season 2 have a little too many characters that you're trying to dive deep on. And because of that, I think that's why you have some of the issues that I felt with not enough story arc or story development in terms of certain characters or sub-stories that happened in the season. It's kind of similar to season 2, where there's this whole kind of jumbled mess, and just kind of making it all kind of connect just was a little bit of just seemed a little rushed in season 2. But in terms of like season 3 and 1, those ones I feel like are a lot more, because I think because you're dealing with little Musk characters. I think because of that, you have that ability to develop them a little more. The story can kind of, the stories in those seasons were kind of better because of that. But that's just me and my opinion on it. Leave a comment below of what you thought of the season if you've seen it, or the past seasons of True Detective. What do you think of it as a whole? And if you have your rating, what is yours? I would like to know. Leave that a comment down below.